Hi, I'm Faith McCann, and I've been a witch for over 40 years. And no, we are not evil. Learn more about the magical world and how the magical world affects your world right here on The Magical Alternative. And you don't have to be a witch to watch. Well, hello, magical ones, and welcome to The Magical Alternative. I'm your host, Faith McCann. Hello, crew. And this month, our musical guest is Curtis Brand. Well, tonight's guest in studio, we have the exciting, fascinating, and always interesting Mr. Jacques Lamarre. Give him a hand.
Thank you.
And he has written a new play, and the topic is the Hartford Circus Fire. Start off here at The Magical Alternative. We love all things to do with history. And this is April, and all around us, people are celebrating. Firstly, Easter is celebrated by over 2.3 billion Christians around the world. It is considered the most sacred day on the calendar for Christians, commemorating the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Always questions come my way at this time of year. Why the bunnies? We got Buddha Bunny here. The eggs, the chickens, the colored eggs. And no, they're not a modern insertion into the holiday for commercialization or for the children. They originated from the pagan holiday Ostara, which is celebrated at the end of March, and it commemorates the spring equinox. So we just celebrated that recently. In addition, this April 2026, we are celebrating Passover. As a matter of fact, when you're watching this, it is the first day of Passover today. This is a sacred Jewish Holy Week. Now, where Hanukkah has literally nothing to do with Christmas, so Passover has nothing to do with Easter. Now, it is celebrated in the springtime, but it commemorates the Exodus. As recorded in Exodus in the Torah, it is the story of when Moses led the Israelites out of Egypt. On the night before they left Egypt, they had a hasty meal of roasted lamb, unleavened bread, and bitter herbs. That night, the Israelites painted sacrificial lamb's blood on their doors, lintels. Not lentils. Lentils are little tiny beans, but the lintels, which are the tops of your doors. Now, this was to prevent the angel of death from stopping at their homes and taking their firstborn. This plague was cast upon both humans and animals. And it's called Passover because it means exactly that. So the angel of death would indeed pass over the Jewish homes and not bring the curse of death to the firstborn that was affecting the Egyptians. It is recorded as happening on the night of the 14th of the month of Nisan. And I've got this really cool, I want to show this to you, calendar, which has our typical months of the year from January, February, March, all the way to December, but it also has the Jewish months. And you can see right up here, Nisan is between March and April on the Hebrew calendar. And that Passover was recorded as happening on the night of the 14th of the month of Nisan, May 4th, 1451 BCE, which would be 3,477 years ago. Why? You asked, does Passover have nothing to do with Jesus? Based on biblical chronology, there are approximately 1,400 to 1,500 years between the Exodus and the crucifixion of Jesus. But if you're as old as me, you remember a time long ago before streaming, when we had just a few channels and cable TV wasn't even a thing, I know. this time of the year when one of the 3 networks would show the 10 Commandments, starring Elizabeth Taylor, Charlton Heston, Yul Brynner, which was a cinematic version of the Exodus led by Moses, and it was always shown around Easter. Moses. Now that's not Yul Brynner, that was Anne Baxter. Moses, and getting over a bit of a chest cold, so I kind of sound like Anne Baxter. And she played Nefertiti. Everyone wants to remember Nefertiti, but that's one of those things where people remember wrong. She played Nefertiti in that particular movie, and it's a great movie. But regardless of when Passover falls, and sometimes it falls between March to April, never beyond April. It always starts on the night of a full moon after the vernal or spring equinox. In April, there are also other very special days of commemoration. Yom HaShoah, which is Holocaust Remembrance Day in April or May every year. This year, in 2026, it is being observed on April 14th. Yom HaZikaron, which is Memorial Day, Israel's official solemn remembrance day for honoring fallen soldiers. This year it's going to be April 21st of 2026. And Yom HaAtzmaut, Israel's Independence Day, which marks the founding of the modern state of Israel on the 14th of May, 1948. This year, it's going to be celebrated April 22nd, 2026. Every year it changes because, again, it's not going, why isn't it celebrated on May 14th? Because they are following a Hebrew calendar, and every year it changes just a little bit. So it's very easy today to just Google it, search it on your phone to find out when it is. So to all of our friends celebrating Passover, Hag Sameach. To those celebrating Easter, happy Easter. And to those who don't celebrate but are done with winter, happy spring. So in Irish Gaelic, Ta'ant Arak Lin, which is Gaelic for it is springtime. And now I'd like to introduce you to our musical guest, Curtis Brand, the man.
Okay, with the weather the way it is today, I think this song is appropriate. It's entitled Cold Spring Rain. Staring out the window at the cold spring rain, wondering what to do. It's 33 degrees, rain spitting through the trees, and I'm so missing you. Thinking about you in that summertime, basking on the beach back when you were mine. This cold spring rain so damned unkind, and I'm so missing you. You got a good job in the city. I went touring with the band. Played my last gig in a dive bar in Seattle. It didn't turn out the way I planned. Wish that I could go back in time, back to that beach when you still were mine. This cold spring rain so damned unkind, and I'm so missing you. I should have kept in touch, should have called you every day. All the late nights and the parties, guess I lost my way. I know that you found someone else. My dreams are stuck on a dusty shelf while I write sad songs all by myself, and I'm so missing you. Seems my dreams misled me, illusions of fortune and fame. I long to go back back to that summer beach, but time and tides have changed. Staring out the window at the cold spring rain, wondering what to do. Summer's gone, life goes on, but I'm still missing you. Thinking about you and that summertime, basking on the beach back when you were mine. This cold spring rain so damned unkind, and I'm so missing you. I'm so missing you. I'm so missing you. Thank you. The next song I wrote for my wife. It's called All the Little Things. The little look you give me when we have a spat, the funny little noise you make when you sleep on your back, all the little worries that get stuck up in your head, your little feet so freezing cold when you get into bed. For all the little things you do, I wrote this song to say thank you. For all the little things that keep on loving you. The little bit of sleep you got when the kids were small, and sometimes when they all were sick, you got no sleep at all. The little extra love you give, the meals made in the kitchen, the little extra time you spend to make yourself bewitching. For all the little things you do, I wrote this song to say thank you. It's all the little things that keep on loving you. I'm not saying that you're perfect, but you come pretty close. When everything is said and done, I still love you the most. You always have a paddle when we're stuck up a creek. Whatever happens, dear, you'll always be the one for me. We had great years together, despite some choppy seas. When I pass, your face will be the last little thing I see. For all the little things you do, I wrote this song to say thank you. For all the little things that keep on loving you.
We're going to be discussing tonight natural, man-made, and other tragedies in Connecticut and how we made it through. At this time, with so much going on in our world, it can be kind of a scary time for a lot of people. And I know a lot of people have spoken with me about the stress they're feeling and the fear they're feeling. And I tend to look back through history so we can see how our forefathers handled situations like this, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, how they handled wars, tragedies, natural disasters, and how we as a people came together as one and helped one another out. Connecticut has persevered through thick and thin for many years. We were first founded in 1636 by the Reverend Thomas Hooker. And the very first women put to death for witchcraft in colonial New England were in Connecticut. Alice Young in 1647, and then Lydia Gilbert in 1654. They were both from Windsor, and they were put to death in Hartford. They basically had a dispute with their neighbors, and that's how it ended. A total of 11 people, 9 women and 2 men, were executed in the state of Connecticut between 1647 and 1697. Up to 46 people were persecuted on charges of witchcraft. The last 3 from Colchester, Connecticut, were accused in the early 1700s and found not guilty and survived. In 1705, the molasses shortage affected Colchester, Connecticut also, and that was because of an early cold snap which froze the Connecticut River solid. At that time in Connecticut, any town could celebrate Thanksgiving anytime they wanted throughout the month of November. Some celebrated it the first week, some the second, some even the third or the fourth. Colchester, Connecticut chose the first week of November to celebrate. But when the ships came from the British West Indies carrying the precious molasses to sweeten the different dishes and desserts on Thanksgiving, it couldn't get up the river. So it was moored offshore, and they had to transport the molasses by horse and wagon up the state. And that forced the people of Colchester to postpone Thanksgiving from the first week to the second week. And this shortage threatened the supply of molasses needed for traditional dishes, most notably to sweeten pumpkin pie, baked beans, brown bread, gingerbread, which had already made its way here to North America, cookies, sweetened squash, and other sweetened items for the feast. Molasses was the most common sweetener. White and brown sugar was only for the very rich, and maple syrup and honey was a lot harder to harvest back then than it is today. During the Revolutionary War, British forces deliberately burned Connecticut towns down to demoralize Connecticut patriots, to destroy supplies, and to retaliate against coastal resistance. General William Tryon led the devastating July 1779 Fairfield raid, which burned Fairfield to the ground, while traitor Benedict Arnold commanded the destruction of his hometown, New London, in September 1781, destroying hundreds of homes, businesses, and ships. This later attack resulted in the massacre at Fort Griswold. It's often said here in New England, we typically only have blizzards to worry about as far as natural disasters, but we've had tornadoes, hurricanes, other storms. But one of the worst blizzards we experienced was in 1888, the Great White Hurricane on March 11th. On the first day of the storm, which lasted 3 days, over 30 inches of snow fell. 2 days later, the total reached 45 inches. In total, Connecticut received between 20 and 30 inches of snow in various parts of the state, with snow drifts measuring 12 feet and higher. New Haven, for example, recorded drifts measuring 40 feet. More than 400 people across the East Coast died in the storms, and estimates placed total storm damage at $20 million. That would be approximately $684 million today in 2026. The storm, later called the Great White Hurricane, marooned trains, stranded delivery men, and laid up coal wagons. Many shopkeepers, principals, and school teachers that sent children home felt that since when it started snowing, it was warm. It was just, winter breaking up. They could get home later in the day, found themselves stuck at their place of work 3 days later, trying to shovel out and trying to get home. We also had the hurricanes of 1938, which flattened so many trees, entire forests. My father, who was born and is still alive today, in 1934, he was born on a farm in Colchester, remembers his first memory looking east from the farm on West Road toward Route 85, and he could see the cars on Route 85 clearly, as every tree had been leveled. That's a good 1 mile stretch. As a 4-year-old, to this day, he remembers that. That particular hurricane of 1938 had over 600 deaths, 4,500 homes were destroyed, 2,600 boats, and 26,000 automobiles completely destroyed, with, in today's money, over $9 billion. People came from farms, factories, and all over to fill sandbags, help clear roads, help one another through this disaster. At this time, we were in the midst of the Great Depression, and we were suffering at the same time a recession within the Depression, all while the world was teetering on the brink of World War II. But a new movie was released, which gave everyone a little bit of hope and something to get their mind off of things. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It was a box office smash. Only 25 cents for an adult ticket, and for afternoon matinees, and for children, it was only a dime. And for those who think today we have fake media, in 1938, Orson Welles released his radio drama, The War of the Worlds. Presented as news bulletins, and those tuning in late missed the introduction, and they really thought it was an alien invasion. It caused thousands to panic and call their local police stations and newspapers, while others actually tried to seek shelter in their local communities. I personally remember in 1973, the ice storm. We had over 1 inch of ice on everything. School was closed, and we thought it was great, but my dad had a dairy farm, so he had the local fire department bring a generator to the barn so he could milk the cows. And a generator back then was a rarity. We had to live by fireplace and candlelight in our home, but the cows had it good, so they were taken care of. And in 2011, I don't know if you remember this, but I do. We had 2 back-to-back storms in 2011. First happened to fall on my birthday, August 28th. It was Tropical Storm Irene. That hit Connecticut and made landfall, causing massive power outages, which lasted over a week. Then that same year, on October 29th, we got Snowtober, a Halloween nor'easter, Storm Alfred, which caused up to 900,000 outages for some up to 2 weeks. And I want to tell you a brief story of what happened that particular week of the second storm. In Manchester, we have a main road at 6 and 44, which doesn't tend to lose electricity, even when everybody else in the state has lost it. It's a main power line, and it tends to keep electricity, or else it's restored first thing. And we went to McDonald's because we kind of figured, after a week or so, let's see if it's open, and it was. And we went to McDonald's, and it was a typical one. You could probably maybe fit a tight 40, 50 people in there. And when I went in, everyone else stayed in the car. It was incredible. There must have been 400 or more people in there. It was shoulder to shoulder. I have been in concerts that had more room. And it was so packed. And so I kind of made my way across to, a wall. And I just watched, and it was incredible. The people behind the counter were overwhelmed, but they were doing their best, and the place was packed. And try to get an image of what you think was happening. And it was really beautiful to see. People were just stepping forth and just yelling out orders and passing money forward. And then the orders were being yelled out, and they were passing the food back, and everybody was helping one another. It should have been chaos. It should have been outrageous. People you would typically think would have been angry, upset, mad, impatient. Everybody was just banding together, helping out. Really it was a beautiful thing to see. And I think about that because it's like, I know we've got it in ourselves because I saw it happen. And at a time where you would think it would have been the worst possible situation, everyone there, nobody knew each other. They just brought out the best in everybody. Every single person just was their very best selves that day. It was really beautiful. So that was in 2011. And the last disaster I'm going to tell you about before we get to our wonderful guest is the 9th District School fire in Manchester, Connecticut, which was destroyed by a major fire over 100 years ago in 1913. It's historically noted as one of the largest school fires we've had in this area. The incident in 1913 resulted in the total destruction of the school building, marking a significant, albeit historic, event in our local community's history. And we can credit Superintendent Verplank at the time with instituting fire drills, the first of their kind. He had got it in his head that fire drills were something new, they were innovative, and he wanted his schools to know about them. And so he just started with the fire drills. And he was actually, I believe, on a train out of town to a meeting when the fire started. It was believed that the fire started in a classroom in a closet. Nobody really knows how it started. But at the time, there were approximately 1,000 students in that building. The newspapers I read when I was working at the Manchester Historical Society at the time, I used to work in ephemera, and that's dealing with a lot of old newspapers, claimed that the fire in this building, it was more than a city block, completely made out of pine and shellacked, burned to the ground in less than 5 minutes. Not one person died. The custodian who went back in just to double check was said to have singed his eyebrows. But other than that, no one got injured. And we can only credit that at the time when children were given instructions by their teachers, they listened to them. And when they were told to exit, line up and exit orderly, they exited orderly. They were out in less than 2 minutes and nobody got injured, which was a gift. So, no one knows how it was started. All we know is that that building housed over 1,000 students and faculty, and not one death was reported. So now I'd like to introduce you to my very patient, very fabulous, and very wonderful guest. And we're going to talk about the Hartford Circus Fire, which happened in 1944. Mr. Jacques Lamar. Hi.
I'm so thrilled to be back on the Tragical Alternative.
That's a good nickname for tonight. Yeah,
Yes,
the Tragical Alternative.
The Tragical Alternative.
I like it. So let us talk about your play,
Yes.
The Hartford Circus Fire.
Yes.
I'm going to go out on a limb and just guess it's not a comedy.
It's not a comedy,
Okay.
which is what I'm known for.
You are known for comedy, some
known for-
amazing, amazing comedy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've written 3 dramas, but this is the first one to get, the second one to get a full production.
Okay.
First to get a professional production, and this play is unlike anything that I've written in terms of style, in terms of size.
What made you want to write it?
Well, going back to the Twain House, I would say probably about 12 years ago, I would put together, as you remember,
Yes.
author programs
Yes.
at the Twain House and special events. And, you know, we had you come, I think, twice.
A couple of times, yeah.
Yeah. You and I did a wonderful conversation with Augustine Burroughs.
That's right. That was wonderful.
And it was the 70th anniversary of the Circus Fire was approaching. And so this would have been 2004?
Yeah.
No, 2014.
Okay.
And I said, you know, we really, you know, it's not the right period for Mark Twain, but it's important to the city. There was a lot of, you know, information about the anniversary coming up. And I said, you know, maybe we could do an author talk on the Circus Fire. And so I contacted Stuart Onan, who's a very well-known author and wrote a book called The Circus Fire.
Yes.
And he had written it when he lived in Hartford. He was no longer living in the Hartford area, but he was willing to come back and do a talk. And there was this gentleman who runs a website called circusfire1944.com, which I highly recommend. His name is Mike Skidgel, and he had a book I think that was coming out around then, called the Hartford Circus Fire.
Okay.
And I asked him if he would be willing to join Tom Condon from the Hartford Courant and Stuart and Ann on stage on the anniversary of the Circus Fire. And they all agreed. And I thought, I think this is going to be a really cool program, but it's a holiday weekend. It's July 4th weekend. Is anyone going to come?
Yeah.
And then I found out that the Circus Fire Memorial, that they have a ceremony at the memorial site where the fire occurred in Hartford every year on the anniversary. And so now I was concerned that I was colliding with that event. And I can't remember if we changed the time or not. This back then we didn't take reservations for book talks or whatever. I don't think. And so we didn't really know what to expect. And it was packed.
Oh, wow.
Packed.
Excellent,
And not just with people who were interested in hearing about the Circus Fire, but with people who were there and
Really?
were eager to tell their stories.
Oh, wow.
And so I was really kind of blown away by the response to it. And we did 2 other Circus Fire author talks in subsequent years with other authors, because there have been about 6 books written either about the Circus Fire or the Circus Fire figures into their plot.
Yes.
There's a poetry book. There have been previous plays, and so it just means so much to this community. And
Yes.
I haven't seen any of the other plays. I haven't read them in terms of. I started reading one, but I stopped because I didn't want it in my head.
Yeah. Yeah, I got you.
And this is also, at this point, about 10 years ago. And I had talked to Rob Ruggiero, the artistic director at TheaterWorks, about 10 years ago, about my desire to do something about the Circus Fire. And I don't know why, it was just like kind of gnawing at me to tell the story, especially because it's been told several times. And we talked about it, but for whatever reason, we just decided now's not the time. And sometimes when you decide that something now is not the time, it becomes never. And I don't know necessarily what, like, stars started to align about 1.5 years ago. And I went to see this production at TheaterWorks, and that was called Sandra. And it was a one-woman show. The set was a chair, period. And there were 2 white walls, a white floor, and a white ceiling. And I went in not knowing what this play was about, not knowing what the production was going to be like. And at a reception before, they had introduced the director, a young man named Jared Mazzacci, who it turns out grew up one town over from where I grew up in New Hampshire.
Okay.
And we have a lot of same reference points. And I went and had a conversation with him just about that. And then I went to see his work in Sandra. And I did not know that the play was going to incorporate some of the most spectacular use of projections to tell the story. And I mean, I've seen projections in the theater, but I was like, suddenly, we're going from New York to Puerto Vallarta to the coast of the Pacific Northwest, and we're in a coffee bar, we're in a tequila bar, and we're also in her head, and we're in the computer, and there's all these
That's
kind of
incredible.
yeah. And I was just blown away by his work. And I went up to Rob after and said, this is how we could do the Circus Fire. And I had already thought about the Circus Fire for a play. I mean, not for a play, but I mean, suddenly the thought of doing a Circus Fire play started coming back to me, and then I saw this production, and so here I am, weeks away from the show opening.
Yeah.
And Jared, the director, who is going to do all the multimedia aspects of it, I was seeing it as a one-person show.
Yeah.
And Rob Ruggiero, who co-conceived the show with me and Jared, wanted a larger cast show. So it's going to be 12 actors, not one, which is one of the biggest casts that the theater has had in its history.
And this is going to be where?
Well, TheaterWorks is producing it, but this is another thing that's different and interesting about it, is that it is not going to be at TheaterWorks. It is going to be in the First Company Governor's Foot Guard Armory.
Oh, in Hartford.
In Hartford. Now, it's not the State Armory, which everyone knows, the big stone building near the Capitol. And that actually plays an important part, not only in the play, but in the history of the Circus Fire, because after the fire, the bodies that needed to be identified were brought from the north end of Hartford to the Armory, and the Armory served as a morgue. And so
The actual armory where it's going to be the play's going to be?
no, there's
Governor's.
another armory in Hartford, the Governor's Foot Guard Armory.
That's the one
which
you're talking
is
about.
over by Union Station, by the
Yes,
train station.
yes.
I always tell people it's in the armpit of 84. That does not mean that it's an armpit. It's just as you're going around.
I know exactly what you're talking
it's
about.
across from the Isham Terry House for you history buffs. And it is a spectacular space. I'd never been in there before.
The Armory.
Have you?
I believe a long time ago when I worked in Hartford. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really quite a special location. And so we're going to be doing it in the round. It is going to have 5 banks of bleacher seating. So it mirrors going to see a circus, but like a one-ring circus. And the various walls and ceilings and whatnot will be used as projection surfaces. So it is going to be an immersive feeling experience with a cast of 12 playing 100 different characters.
Oh my.
And
How long did it take you to write it?
you know, I'm a pretty fast writer.
I know that.
And this show took more effort because it required a lot of research. And it was also a bit of a different writing process because I was working with Rob and Jared throughout. Oftentimes playwrights, we go off, we write our thing, and then we give it to a theater, and then you go through all this process. But I mean, this was much more like, you know, them saying, we don't want it to be linear time-wise. We don't want you to feel that you need to limit the number of characters you're doing, you know, and we were going to have 8 actors, and then it became 10, and now it's 12. It's 10 actors.
So a lot of feedback while you were writing.
Yeah, it's 10 professional actors and 2 students who are in their senior year of Hart School.
Oh, nice.
Which is very special to me because I'm on the board of Hart School, so I'm really gratified that we're giving this professional experience to these 2 students, and that their parts aren't small. There are no small parts in this play. I mean, there are small parts insofar as there are some characters that only have a line like "Peanuts," but each actor is going to be playing about 10 different roles,
see.
and it's not like this one's the lead.
Yeah.
Because what we're trying to do with this play is, in my mind, twofold. One is it's a story about community, and this story is so important to Connecticut, to Hartford in particular, to people of a certain generation, and this incident forever changed the city.
Yeah.
But it changed so much more than just the people who lost their lives or lost loved ones or were injured. It changed mass settlements of disasters legally.
Yes.
How it was, how they achieved settlements with the circus, which sounds very bureaucratic and whatnot, but And when you look at it and you see like how they assign values to people's life and injuries is kind of crazy. But
Sad.
yeah, sad. But it was highly unusual. There is a book by Judge Henry Cohn, and he's going to be speaking at Hartford Public Library on April 25th, specifically just about how they managed the mass settlement. Wow. Like it was a major legal precedent. And it also changed fire safety,
Yes.
particularly for temporary structures. And a tented circus did not come into Hartford. And even things like tented revivals and whatnot were not allowed for a long time. The first circus to come to Hartford in many, many years was the Big Apple Circus in Bushnell Park many decades later.
I remember when I thought the very first one allowed in a tent was in Manchester at the high school fairground. I mean, the high school track, because I went to it.
Oh, that
I know.
might have been, but Hartford.
For Hartford,
specifically, because
this was only like 15 years ago.
Yeah, Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey, which if I hadn't mentioned it, Ringling Brothers is the other community in this play.
Yes.
It was a traveling city, like 600 to 900 people.
Yeah.
Would travel with that circus. And so the play is about these two communities coming into contact with each other, this conflagration and tragedy that forever changed both. And then the other big thing for me about the play is how important it is to remember and to not forget.
Yes.
Particularly, there are still survivors who, I saw firsthand at these conversations that they were five years old when they were in that tent.
Yeah.
And they are still afraid to be in crowds and enclosed spaces.
Oh.
They're always looking to see where the fire exits are. There is a fantastic, since you're already potentially on YouTube watching The Tragical Alternative.
Yes.
Once you are done watching this episode in full, search for Charles Nelson Riley Circus Fire. Because he was there.
And he was a child, wasn't he?
He was a child, and he tells the story. And of course, with Charles Nelson Riley, the story is very funny. But at the same time, it's also very powerful. And you can see how it is still decades later with him. And so the importance of remembering, there is the memorial for it in Hartford, but it's in the North End, and we're constantly told on the news, don't go into the North End, you'll be killed. And North End's a very vibrant neighborhood.
It's beautiful.
And it's near.
And I've been to that memorial.
Yeah, and it's quite moving when you go there. It's a very thoughtful memorial.
Yeah.
But when you go over there, there is no sign on the street that tells you it's there.
You have to search it out.
You have to search it out. And it was behind the Fred D. Wish School. And the Fred D. Wish School did not exist at the time of the circus fire, but they built the school on the site where the circus fire was, not right where it occurred, but they have recently demolished the school and there's construction fencing. So even when the school was up, you can't see the memorial from the street. You have to know that it's back there. You have to make the effort to visit it. There are no signs in the city saying this way to the circus memorial. And because of the construction and because of winter and whatnot, much of the year it's covered up anyway. So we're really, one of the things is to put the spotlight back on this this very moving site that forever altered the city of Hartford. And I cannot go through a day without someone saying, and it occurred here tonight. Oh, my neighbor was there that day. My mother was there that day. My mother was supposed to go, but it was so hot, they decided to go to the beach instead. They decided to go to the movies instead. I have a friend up in New Hampshire where I grew up and I've known this woman for years, and I met her grandfather who lived in Suffield. And all I knew of her grandfather was that he was a very important lawyer and that he was the head of the Republican National Committee.
Okay.
And so, you would go to his house, and there would be pictures of him with Ronald Reagan and Bush and all these other horrifying individuals. And so but very nice man.
Yes.
And I'm sorry if people tuned out, but anyway, his name is Meade Alcorn, or his name was Meade Alcorn, and it was my friend's grandfather, who I could tell was a very important person.
Yeah.
He was the one who ran kind of the state's investigation of the circus fire incident. He was a major, major player, and if you read Stuart Onan's book, he's in it. Her great-grandfather was at the circus fire. Her grandfather's brother's kids were at the circus fire. And so they're like just these weird connections for something that, even though it was 81 years ago, 82 this July, it's something that's still with us, but we are, potentially going to lose that memory and that history if we don't tell the story.
How many people were in the tent at the time?
It's an inexact science. Nowadays with, computerized ticketing and whatnot, you can be like, bloop, and tell how many people were sold tickets, whether they were scanned into the theater or what have you. Back then, they would sell tickets in all kinds of different locations in advance, as well as on the site of the circus. And on July 5th is when the circus arrived in town, and they were late in arriving and late in setting up, so they what was called blew the matinee, and that was considered bad luck, blowing a show. So it was supposed to be a 2-day, 4-show stand, a matinee and an evening, a matinee and an evening. Because they missed the first matinee, a number of people who may have been ticketed into that performance may have come the next day or gone at night or just missed it or got a refund. And again, it was very hot, so some people who had tickets decided not to go. So long story short, no one knows exactly how many. The best and my guess most accurate guesses are somewhere between 7,000 and 8,000 people under the tent.
When the fire started.
When the fire started.
That's a ridiculous number of people.
It's a huge number of people. I mean, when you look at like the Civic Center, that seats, I think, about 16,000 for a sold out show. But I mean, we're talking this temporary structure holding 7,000 to 8,000 people.
8,000, yeah.
And no one knows for certain, except for the person who may have caused it, how the fire started. And there's theories that it was, a tossed cigarette, that someone may have lit the trash in the men's room on fire by accident or on purpose, that it may have been arson. A man did admit to setting the fire and then later recanted. And he was a known arsonist, and he was on site, and he was a person with severe mental health issues. But it's almost beside the point. Like, we all want to know who's to blame.
Yeah.
And
but that doesn't really make any difference.
It doesn't unring the bell.
No.
And so the number of people who died is 168. Now, that didn't mean they all died necessarily on site. There were a number of people who got severely burned and were brought to hospitals, and the hospitals were overwhelmed. Because it wasn't just the 168 people, because some of those people didn't need to go to the hospital. They were dead on site. There were hundreds of people who were, trampled, would have rope burns from sliding down ropes to get off the bleachers. Broken bones.
From jumping off the
bleachers, but also being trampled, falling, coming down the bleachers. So, the other thing to bear in mind about the circus fire tragedy, and this is unbelievable by today's standards, but the tent wasn't fireproofed, obviously. It was not fireproofed. The circus said at the time they could not get the chemicals to treat the tent because it was wartime. It was 1944, so this is during World War II. Now, even before World War II, they weren't fireproofing the tent. No. So that was an excuse. What they did was they waterproofed the tent.
Yes.
And I don't know if you know about this.
Familiar with that,
But
yes.
the
tell us.
waterproofing compound was a paraffin mixture. And so they coated the tent with a compound that was part paraffin wax and part gasoline. And so the entire tent was soaked basically in gasoline. And so when the fire started, it did not start on the roof. And the sidewalls were where the fire started. The sidewalls were not treated with that compound. So the fire started traveling up the side of the tent. And that's when people started noticing it.
Yeah.
And some people thought it was part of the show. Some people just assumed it would get taken care of.
Oh.
And the circus employed people whose job was to sit under the bleachers, retrieve things that were falling from above, wallets, glasses, purses, you name it. You might drop something and a hand would come up and hand it back to you.
Oh my goodness.
But they were also down there with buckets of water. And so the assumption is, and fires did start. Hartford wasn't the first fire, but oftentimes they could control the fire because of the buckets and catching it in time. And so it was making its way up the sidewall. And I'm going to get into a bit of detail here.
Yeah.
But we all assume that the first thing at the circus that day would have been a big parade of all the acts. No, the first thing was a little clown kind of scene where these women dressed up as lion tamers, and a clown dressed up as a lion or whatever, and then he turns the tide on them and is lion taming the women.
Oh, okay.
But this was all to distract the audience to get the actual wild animals into the first and third rings. This is a 3-ring circus.
Okay.
So at the extremes are these 2 round temporary cages that are holding lions, tigers. One of them had like bears and Great Dane dogs. And in order to get the animals from the outside of the tent into those rings, they ran steel chutes that telescoped down the exits into the cage. And so that way the animals could be brought safely in and out without, encountering a guest. So, and when people started coming in, those chutes were in place, but they had steps to get over them. The Big Cat Act happens in the first and third rings. And about 20 minutes into the show, the next act, the Flying Wallendas, one of the famous circus acts of all time, are up doing their high wire act. Now the audience is now looking up, and that's the animal tamers' cue to start exiting the pumas and tigers and whatnot out the chutes. So during the Wallendas is when the fire starts up the side wall. And again, a number of people think that this is going to get put out. Some people think it's part of the act, what have you. And a lot of people are looking up, which is what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
So as the fire gets to the roof of the big top, that's when it goes crazy. And so from start to finish, it's believed that the entire conflagration was 8 to 10 minutes in length. Which, when you think about 7,000 to 8,000 people getting out of that space within that amount of time, we are lucky that only 168 people died.
Absolutely.
And that the tragedy could have been far worse. Not that it was minimized by any stretch.
But still, it could have been thousands.
It could have been thousands. And the majority of, well, not the majority, but about 60 people died pressed up against the steel chute because they couldn't go out. It blocked their exit. And there's a lot particularly in Stuart Onan's book about crowd psychology during a tragedy. And last year we had that horrible fire in Switzerland in the nightclub.
Yes.
Where again, it's like, this is the thing, it's a horrible thing, and all these people lost their lives and people were forever changed. But it's not like someone was setting out to be a villain.
No.
You look at like what happened in Sandy Hook, another Connecticut tragedy, and that was someone with,
an intent.
With an intent. Mental health issues, but an intent.
Yes.
And so with the circus fire, there may have been some intent, but who knows if it was set, if they really understood the scope of what was about to happen. It's like Titanic, and so, but with the crowd psychology, like in Switzerland, they all bottlenecked in that one space, and the majority of the people died trying to get out.
Yeah.
And the same thing happened in Hartford with the animal chutes.
Wow. That is incredible. Well, I am very much looking forward to seeing the play.
Yes.
I love your work.
Thank you.
Do.
Yeah, this is very different. It runs April 16th. They've already extended it through May 25th because the interest is so intense.
How many shows a week?
I believe it's about 7 performances a week.
A week. Okay.
Yeah,
So for
it's
a
like
full month.
basically Tuesday through Friday night, and then 2 shows on Saturday, a show on Sunday.
Oh, and how long is the play?
To be determined. We're in rehearsal, so
okay.
We're trying to figure that out. But my guess is it's going to be about 90 to 100 minutes without an intermission.
Without an intermission.
Without an intermission.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you again, Jacques Lamar. Giving you a hand.
Thank you.
It's exciting. Thank you so much for being here. Well, I would like to thank our musical guest this evening, Mr. Curtis Brand. And we look forward to having November Sound back soon. Thanks. And thank you very much to my very exciting and interesting guest always, Mr. Jacques Lamar.
Thank you.
Please check out our brand new magical and shiny website, enchantmentct.com, and our email if you'd like to send any questions or have any comments to enchantmentct@gmail.com. Is it your dream to be on television, to have your own TV show? If so, how do you do it? Get some friends together, check out your local public access TV station, and they will help you put together your show. I'd like to thank everybody on the crew at CVC. And as the great late John Lennon said, peace is not something you wish for, it's something you make. And Ukraine, let us not forget, has been fighting against Russia since 2014. So for my people, Slava Ukraini, America z vami. Thank you for watching. Be safe and peace. Thank you.